Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Gentex Multimedia live stream for the 11th of December. Well, hey, it's Friday once again, coming on to the weekend, and it's going to be a big weekend now because lots of functions and events have started happening. More people are out and about as well, and we have quite a lot to report upon, quite a lot that's happening out there. But first of all, let's take a quick look at the weather and see what the weather is doing for this weekend. With that, let's welcome Dilraj.
Good morning everyone. Weather forecast for the rest of today is maximum 27 degree. Brisbane area is partly cloudy with medium chances of shower this afternoon and evening. Winds east to southeasterly 20 to 30 km per hour. Fire danger is low to moderate. Sun protection is recommended till 50 past 3 and UV index is predicted to reach 12, that is extreme. Tomorrow, that is Saturday, minimum will be 20 and maximum will be 26. Brisbane area will be cloudy with very high chance of showers, most likely from the late morning. The chance of thunderstorm in the west in the afternoon and evening. Wind southeasterly 20 to 30 km per hour. Sun protection is recommended till from morning 7:30 a.m. till 40 past 3 and UV index is predicted to reach 11, that is extreme. On Sunday again, Brisbane area will be mostly cloudy with very high chance of rain and minimum will be 19 and maximum will be 24. The chance of thunderstorm in the evening and heavy falls possible. Wind southeasterly 35 to 50 km per hour. Sun protection is recommended from 7:30 a.m. till 50 past 3 and UV index is predicted to reach 12, that is extreme. Till tomorrow, stay safe and enjoy the rest of your day.
Well, thank you very much, Dilraj, for that update. So that's what the weekend is going to be looking like. Well, once again, let's get into the news for today. And with that, first of all, the headlines with the courtesy of IBC.
Cabinet will meet face-to-face for the first time this morning as leaders continue to plot the way out of the coronavirus crisis. They'll consider COVID-19 vaccines, the reopening of borders and the nation's economy. All state and territory leaders, except Western Australia's Premier, have travelled to Canberra for the event. Mark McGowan has remained at home to avoid seeing South Australia's Premier Stephen Marshall over coronavirus concerns. Tasmania will ease more restrictions this afternoon, increasing caps on home visitors and bringing back dancing and stand-up drinking. Premier Peter Gutwein says households will be allowed to welcome 100 visitors for Christmas, but those in smaller homes are being urged to take the party outside. Gathering limits will remain in place for non-residential venues, with a review on capacities for theatres and cinemas expected next week. The Western Australian border is now open to South Australians, but they'll still be required to quarantine for 14 days on arrival. This means anyone entering the state today will be in quarantine for Christmas, with the 2-week period ending on Boxing Day. Boris Johnson says there is a strong possibility the UK will fail to strike a post-Brexit trade agreement with the EU. It comes after his meeting with the President of the EU Commission failed to reach a breakthrough. The Prime Minister says the talks are not there yet and is warning the public and businesses to prepare.
So that's the headlines for this morning, and once again, welcome to Gentex Multimedia live streaming. And of course, for today, we bring to you lots of news. And of course, we know that further down the track, things might change a little bit. We will talk about that a little bit later on in the show when we talk about Facebook and what it's going to happen in this sphere where people are sharing news on various channels and including Facebook itself. Well, right now, a lot of talk on the vaccine, and of course, bad news coming out is that the Queensland University of Queensland's vaccine trial has been dumped, and the Premier is pretty upset about that. But what's been the reasoning on that? First of all, let's hear from our Prime Minister.
Morning, everyone. I'm joined by Health Minister Greg Hunt and Professor Murphy, Secretary of the Department of Health, but most importantly, leading our technical advisory group when it comes to Australia's vaccine policy and strategy. So welcome both to you gentlemen this morning. The platform, the foundation of Australia's performance during the course of the COVID-19 pandemic has been the strong health system that Australia has and that we have strengthened over the course of this COVID-19 pandemic. A strong health system federally, a strong health system at a state level. And I thank all of our state and territory jurisdictions. We'll be meeting with them later today as part of the National Cabinet for our last meeting this year. It has been a team effort as we've worked hard to provide that strong health platform upon which Australia's economic comeback has also been conditional upon. The key part of that process of ensuring that our health system has been strong is that we've had a clear plan, and that plan has been based on the best possible medical advice and scientific advice. And it's a plan that has enabled us to move swiftly and decisively in response to events as they have unfolded. The COVID-19 pandemic writes its own rules. We don't get to write those rules for it. We need to be able to adapt and respond consistent with the plan that we've developed in partnership with our medical and scientific experts. Our vaccine strategy and our vaccine policy had identified 4 vaccines that we believed, based on the scientific advice, had the potential to go through to the end of stage 3 trials and be available here in Australia. At no stage can I assure you that we believed that all 4 of those vaccines would likely get through that process. If that had occurred, that would have been truly extraordinary based on the process of vaccine development, not only in this country but anywhere else. So that's why we spread our risk. That's why we backed important projects. And that's why we pre-prepared to ensure that we could deal with any issues along the way. The advice that we have received, and the National Security Committee of Cabinet met this week and made the final decision yesterday, is that the University of Queensland vaccine will not be able to proceed based on the scientific advice, and that will no longer feature as part of Australia's vaccine plan. I do want to thank, though, Professor Paul Young and all the team up there at University of Queensland for the amazing work that they have done in getting the vaccine to that stage. And we will continue to support and fund the work that they're doing on molecular clamp research on vaccines, which has application in many other areas. They're doing great work. They are amazing. I'm incredibly proud of all of our scientists for the awesome work that they've been doing to support us this year. And so I congratulate them and thank them for all the hard work they've put in this year. But as part of our strategy, it means that we've been able to reposition and redeploy both.
So as we had the Queensland's vaccine trial has been dumped, and of course our Premier is pretty upset about that. But here's some of the reasoning as to why that vaccine was dumped.
We know that it was producing very good antibodies. It was likely to be effective in phase 3 trials. We hadn't done those phase 3 trials, but it was all the evidence would suggest it was going to be an effective vaccine. But we cannot risk public confidence. We just can't. Given that we have other successful candidate vaccines, this was a very difficult decision that CSL and we made together, but it was important to keep that public confidence. But I emphasise it was excellent research, it was a good platform, and it was likely to be an effective vaccine at preventing coronavirus, we think. But we haven't got the phase 3 data.
So there you are, the Queensland University's vaccine trials being dumped. And of course we know that Queensland government had invested a substantial fund of money into that research, and it was funded. Of course there's a federal funding there as well, but the state government funded quite a large portion of that as well, and it's obvious that the Premier would be a little bit upset. Here's what she had to say.
I think we're very, very disappointed, but of course there's been a number of companies right throughout the world and universities teaming up to come up with a vaccine in such a short period of time. So of course we're disappointed, and now all eyes are looking at what's happening in the UK with the rollout of their vaccine. And of course, I think the Australian government and every leader, state and territory, is watching closely the outcomes of what's happening in the UK. I've just been advised yesterday, late afternoon, that the trial has to be abandoned. I know they've been working night and day. I mean, they have been making the ultimate sacrifice. But of course, there are going to be some winners and losers when it comes to vaccines. And I'm very proud of the work and the effort that they have put in to actually getting to this stage.
Of course, Queensland is proud of the work that's been done at University of Queensland and all the research. And I think the university is very thankful to the state government as well for the funding that was provided for the research and development. And as the Premier said that, with so many people in that same space working for the research of vaccine that, not all could be given the go-ahead. Well, anyway, the research has not gone to waste. There's still quite a lot of areas where they can be utilized. Well, on the lighter note, Queensland can now dance to the tune.
Restrictions for dancing will ease at noon at midday on Monday. So after that, people will be able to dance in indoor venues where there are arrangements in place to ensure that there's only one person per 2 square metres in that dance area.
This is a very positive step forward and one we've been able to do because Queenslanders and businesses, the tourism sector, our cafes, restaurants, pubs, clubs have all worked together to ensure that we can have these great outcomes. And so we're calling on Queenslanders to continue to do that.
So there we go. Queensland can dance once again. Well, of course, backed by popular demand is the Roma Street's Enchanted Garden. And here's a plug from Brisbane City Council. The Enchanted Garden, tickets have been released from today. So you can visit visit brisbane.com to find out more and come. And as we know from previous years that that's a must see in Brisbane. If you are in Brisbane, that is something you really got to see. Well, right now let's go to one of the experts on the vaccine, Dr. Swan. Let's see what he has to say on the vaccine and the research and what's happening in that field.
Some allergy experts were not surprised by the announcement that these 2 patients had serious reactions to the Pfizer vaccine. While investigators are yet to confirm the offending ingredient, it's likely to be a substance called PEG, polyethylene glycol, which is used in cosmetics, toothpaste and packaged foods, and is known to cause anaphylactic reactions rarely. In October, researchers published a series of cases of PEG allergy and recently warned about the Pfizer vaccine. Professor Jim Buttery is an expert in vaccine safety.
PEG is a lipid compound or a fat compound that is used to help stabilise the mRNA, which is the active bit of the COVID genome that is used in the vaccine. It's also been used in one of the other mRNA vaccines, the Moderna vaccine.
Vaccine allergies are rare, just over 1 case in every 1 million doses, usually due to preservatives or other parts of the vaccine. Pfizer say they had no increased incidence of allergies in their trial, and that's probably because they excluded people with a history of severe allergy. So does this mean that people with allergies should avoid COVID vaccines?
Whenever we move a vaccine from trials into the real population, we start coming up with people who receive the vaccine who have more complex medical conditions, including a background of severe allergy. And so we'll be learning from the UK experience.
So the messages are, this is a rare side effect, and there will probably be more as these vaccines are rolled out in the real world. Lucky for us here in Australia, we're in no rush, and by the time our turn comes, a lot of these wrinkles will be ironed out.
And of course, it is the process of ironing out all the things. Well, once again, I'd like to thank Gaura Travels for sponsoring this segment. As we know that this live stream is brought to you by the courtesy of Gaura Travels. And don't forget that tomorrow we'll bring to you a update and live interview with Gaurav Travels on their flights and whatever is available at this point in time, because we know that on December 21st, a charter flight right from here, right from Brisbane is going, and you can book through Gaurav Travels, your best way home forward. And of course, we know that the prices is starting from $1,099, and you can book with only as much as 5% down or 5% deposit. The flight will be on 21st of December. Well, right now, moving on, let's go to the other news. As we know, Christmas is coming, and of course, around Christmas, everyone needs to be together. All the families always plan to be together and spend, Christmas time, that wonderful time together. But this Christmas might be different.
Christmas has begun for the Ramazan family in Adelaide. Mum Katie and her 2 young sons spreading some festive cheer. But this year will be different, with one notable absence. Dad Gershom is stuck in South Africa.
I'm sort of being realistic now that he's not going to be here. So I think we're just going to try and make it as special as possible for the kids.
Just a quick view of the outside. This is an area called Muldersdrift. It is in the cradle of humankind. Christmas is on the horizon, and I'm not sure if I will be able to see my family.
It's been about a year.
And that is the harsh reality of the times, and there will be people who will be caught up like that. Well, right now, let's go to Western Australia, where the Premier is talking about the self-isolation rules, and of course, he will also be talking about himself as well, why he is not at the Cabinet meeting today in person. He is there virtually, but not in person, because he says if he sets out the rule, he too must follow the rules. Well, right now he's talking about, even though the borders has been opened, but people coming in will still be subject to the quarantine.
For South Australian people arriving tomorrow, that is Friday, they will be required to complete 14 days of self-quarantine, which expires at 11:59 p.m. on Christmas night. So for South Australian people arriving tomorrow, that is Friday, they'll be required to complete 14 days of self-quarantine subject to a COVID test, which expires at midnight on Christmas night. Currently, South Australia has gone 14 days with no community cases. All things going well, they will complete their 28 days of no community cases at the end of December 24, that is Christmas Eve. This means, all things going well, subject to no further outbreaks in South Australia, South Australia could move to a very low risk status from 12:01 a.m. on December 25, which is free travel under our control border, subject to health screening and filling out the G2G pass. We put all sorts of rules and restrictions in place for all sorts of states over the course of this year, and all people from all walks of life. And it's been awful. It's been terrible. We haven't done it lightly. And I couldn't have imagined this would be something I would do or even consider doing a year ago. And so we're very sympathetic and very understanding that there will be people impacted by what we're doing here.
Well, he is very sympathetic. Of course, the right thing needs to be done. And I think I like his style of saying that, rules are rules and they need to be followed regardless of who you are. You cannot be the leader and not follow the rules. You need to set the examples, and I think that's why. So when asked about why he's not at the Cabinet meeting today in person, of course we know he's attending via virtual link. He's the only Premier not to be physically present there. So let's hear on his reasoning.
I'm not going to break the rules that apply to all other West Australians. The rule is there, it's very clear. It applies to all West Australians. I'm not going to break the rule. So I made that clear. I advised the Prime Minister of that a week or so ago, and it's very important that I set a good example. How can I expect all other West Australians to follow the rules if I don't follow the rules? So I'm going to follow the rules. And I think it's important that leaders in our community adhere to the health advice that is applicable to all other West Australians. By not going, I'm going to miss the dinner tonight. I'll be part of all the meetings tomorrow via video conferencing, as I've done on 35 separate occasions this year as part of National Cabinet. So I'll participate in all of the meetings, all of the discussion formally tomorrow with the Treasurer, with the relevant public servants. I'll have all of the agendas. I'll get briefed on those this afternoon. It will be very clear and that I'm participating as part of National Cabinet.
So good on you, mate, and I think he's done the right thing. That's from my, my personal thinking. That is, rules are rules, and they need to apply for everyone. And following the rule, and leaders need to, lead by example. And I firmly believe in that. You can't be, preaching one thing and doing the other. So good on you. I think it's a wise decision there. Well, right now, I'd just like to give a plug for the Brisbane Indian Times. The latest copy is out. It is out in all the outlets. So, go pick up your copy from your favorite outlet. You can read online as well. And if you do have any difficulty, getting your copies, please do contact us, and we'll guide you into the right direction as we have increased the numbers once again. After COVID, we've slowly been increasing the numbers once again, getting back to the full circulation the numbers because many places were closed, places of worship, public places were closed, so it was no use sending the paper there who would just be sitting there and no one coming in to pick them up. So now we are increasing the numbers. We have received numerous calls from many outlets to say they need more because it goes straight away. Remember that we throughout the COVID we have been printing the papers. We have never stopped the printing, and even though online is quite good as well, but our hard copies have been out there. People still like to physically pick up the copy and read the paper, the touch and feel of the paper, and the traditional method of reading is still there. And I'd like to thank everyone for the continued support for the newspaper as it goes over. Like I said, the December issue is out, and you can go pick up your copies. So now, with the easing of restrictions, and of course looking at the cross-Tasman travel, which we have been talking about a lot. I know Tanvi from Oz India Travel has been talking about this as well. So what is that announcement going to do?
We hope to see some thousands of potential New Zealand backpackers decide to come and travel around Australia. The great thing about backpackers is that they come here and they usually spend every dollar they earn. They spend the savings they brought with them. They sometimes ask mum or dad to send them more money to spend, so they're very good economic stimulus. But they also do jobs, particularly in regional areas, agricultural or seasonal work that is very valuable in terms of filling labour gaps. We would ordinarily at this time of year have about 130,000 backpackers in Australia. Because of COVID, that's down to about 50,000 who was here at the start of the year and have stayed. If we can get a few Kiwis come across, well, that will be a good start for our tourism industry to start to see some internationals return again.
And that will be wonderful news once again, but we really need to be careful as well. And of course, we still need lots of people out there for the fruit picking area as well, as we have been reporting throughout the week as well. Now, of course, we're coming into that silly season of the bushfires once again. Well, right now, 9 charges have been laid about the bushfires. Here's that report. It is a little bit disappointing, but here's the report.
Strike Force Fire and originated out of a long-running drugs and firearms trafficking investigation, which identified that some members and associates of the rebel outlaw motorcycle gang were cynically defrauding the government support grant scheme for small business post the 2019-2020 bushfires. This is a most disturbing incident. We will allege that nearly $700,000 in claims were lodged by this group, none of which were remotely qualified to apply for these grants, and in the vicinity of $113,000 was actually obtained unlawfully by this group, which we'll allege in court. 11 people in total will be charged. We've charged 9 already. Further 2 are going to be charged today with a range of serious fraud offences, including publishing misleading information in order to obtain a benefit, money laundering, dishonesty obtaining benefits by deception. There are also a number of firearm parts, ammunition and drugs obtained during these searches, and these investigations will continue. What's very disturbing about this is that we still have 2,400 families in the South Coast region of New South Wales being supported by the government and Resilience New South Wales to overcome the difficulties of the bushfires and then the COVID pandemic. These grants were meant to enable businesses on the South Coast to remain open to provide services to the community and employment, which some of these businesses have failed due to the losses from the bushfires and then compounded by the COVID disaster. These grants were meant to assist that and have been cynically stolen by this group.
GlobeNet Realty. GlobeNet Realty has been the longest established, trusted and respected agency in its trade area. Washa Chandra, Director of GlobeNet Realty, provides honest and ethical service to her customers. If you are thinking of investing in Brisbane real estate market, or if you are seeking professional property management, then you should contact Usha Chandra today on landline 3865 4466 or mobile 0419 775 416. And for further updates, log on to our website www.globenetralty.com.au. GlobeNet Realty is your own local real estate agency. Situated at Shop 52281 Sandgate Road, Boondall. GlobeNet Realty. Real estate is our world.
And real estate is the world. And of course, don't forget that every Wednesday, the real estate update is brought to you by GlobeNet Realty, where they present the what's happening, the market trends, the valuations, the properties to look out for, the suburbs to look out for, and the cities to invest in. And all those report and much, much more every Wednesday with GlobeNet Realty. And don't forget that tomorrow we'll bring to you all the updates with the Gora Travel as to see what's happening in that field. As we know, this is the time now, everything's opening up. And, we're leading into the holidays and everyone's planning. So, to help you, assist you with the planning as to see what's available, what you can plan for and what you can do, what sort of travel are you allowed to do during that time. Well, right now, as we heard about the tourism, of course, the other news was that the Prime Minister very, very upset with that tweet from China, and he's still holding firm, even though China has said that the Prime Minister has taken this a little bit too harshly. But Prime Minister here is holding his ground and is asking for China to apologise.
The repugnant post made today of an image, a falsified image, of an Australian soldier threatening a young child with a knife, a post made on an official Chinese government Twitter account, posted by the Deputy Director General of the Ministry of Foreign Affairs, Mr. Lijian Zhao, is truly repugnant. It is deeply offensive to every Australian who has served in that uniform, every Australian who serves in that uniform today, every one who has pulled on a uniform and served with Australians overseas from whatever nation that they have done that. It is utterly outrageous, and it cannot be justified on any basis whatsoever. The Chinese government should be totally ashamed of this post. It diminishes them in the world's eyes. I want to make a couple of points about this. Australia is seeking an apology from the Ministry of Foreign Affairs, from the Chinese government, for this outrageous post. We are also seeking its removal immediately and have also contacted Twitter to take it down immediately. It is a false image and a terrible slur
on our great Defence Forces and the men and women who've served in that uniform for over 100 years.
So our men and women who serve in that uniform. And of course, talking about the uniform, then we look at that report that's been put out. A lot of veterans are pretty upset about that report that's been put out about the Afghanistan incident and the war crimes that's been, alleged. And there is a growing backlash amongst all the veterans. And the Prime Minister just then said about, that it's about protecting them. But let's take a look at that report on how that finding and that investigation went, and how is it going down with the veterans.
Rules were broken, lies told, and prisoners killed.
The matters are merely allegations. How many more years do politicians plan to torture Australian soldiers?
This is the most serious issue that any Chief of Defence Force, any Minister for Defence has ever had to deal with in the history of our nation.
In the fallout of a devastating war crimes report, the Defence Chief Angus Campbell has found himself in the hot seat. The decision to strip the meritorious unit citation from around 3,000 soldiers who served in the Special Operations Task Group in Afghanistan between 2007 and 2013 saw the Prime Minister intervene.
Well, as always, Governor-Generals take advice of their Prime Ministers. That process is not completed yet.
I have a citation, a unit citation from another conflict. I proudly wear that, and all of the guys that wear their citation for their conflict, they would all proudly wear that.
I think I just question how many war crimes does it take. I mean, one incident would be enough, I think, to undermine the awarding of that citation.
Military sociologist Dr Samantha Cromforts was commissioned by General Campbell to undertake a review of the culture of Special Forces soldiers back in 2015. She was told about potential war crimes, sparking the Brereton inquiry.
I've obviously known about this for 5+ years and I still find it difficult to stomach. It's just deeply disturbing.
Anzac is almost a religion in Australia, but it seems to me that just as war brings out the best in people, it brings out the worst in people as well.
Chris Masters was the first Australian journalist to be embedded with Special Forces in Afghanistan. He faced fierce resistance as he began reporting disturbing allegations.
It presses the button on people who want to call you un-Australian and unpatriotic. I had death threats.
Brereton's report details confronting allegations that unarmed civilians were killed, including prisoners who were handcuffed or otherwise defenceless, and that soldiers covered up their crimes by planting weapons or radios on the victims' bodies.
The next one would be blooding, as they refer to it, and that is the initiation into killing, most likely of more junior soldiers, who would be, we think, sometimes bullied into acts that they couldn't later live with.
The report found 39 Afghans were unlawfully killed and 25 alleged perpetrators were identified. Some serving SAS soldiers have been notified they may be sacked.
These weren't heat of battle, fog of war incidents. They were calculated.
The Australian government had little choice but to act on the report's findings, according to leading human rights and war crimes expert Jeffrey Robertson.
We have a duty under the International Criminal Court statute. Otherwise, these people will be dragged to The Hague and put on an international trial there, to our greatest shame.
But moving to strip some soldiers of their medals and to disband the SAS 2nd Squadron have proved controversial first steps.
While necessary, these decisions will be a bitter blow for many.
What we've seen is mixed messaging coming out of Canberra. Mixed messaging all over the place. It's hopeless. We need a national sense of purpose to get out of this.
Jim Truscott is a former Special Forces officer who served in the SAS and Commando regiments. He didn't serve in Afghanistan, but says the fact the Brereton report appears to exonerate the top brass doesn't sit well with some veterans.
Why was this problem not detected? That's the nub of the problem.
Do you find it plausible that people didn't know?
Oh, look, something's weird here. You know, it doesn't pass the pub test, or, you know, in the military, it doesn't pass the digger's boozer. You know, when you're in close confines like that, you know what's going on. You know, so somewhere along the line there's been a breakdown in truthful reporting.
There's a question hanging over us. Will we ever have our reputation returned? Will Afghanistan be our Abu Ghraib? Will it be our My Lai? I really...
Now, that is a damning report, and of course, it will have serious consequences, and I don't think we have seen the end of that as well. We will see how it progresses. Well, now for the other news that we talked about before is Facebook to pay for the news.
For more than 15 years, Facebook has been bringing you the news that matters, like whose birthday you're going to ignore today. Now, with our Facebook-only news network, we have some of the most extremist citizen journalists in the world, reporting from basements across the country. Get the news that our algorithm says matters to you, from faces you sometimes scroll past.
I'm your ill-informed aunt.
I'm your cousin who's not all there.
I'm that bloke you used to work with you can't be bothered to unfriend.
And I'm someone whose friend request you accepted out of politeness. Let's have a chat about this scamdemic, shall we?
Delivering all the news to keep you informed. Politics.
There's an absolutely mind-blowing story out today about Hillary Clinton from a news website called The Onion.
Weather.
According to the Bureau of Meteorology, it was the hottest November on record. According to my pop, it was hotter in 1952.
Yep, it was a hot one. And insightful analysis. Plus, data-driven commercials that are actually relevant to you.
Facebook News Network is brought to you by whatever brand name or product you just said out loud to a friend. How did we hear it? And show you an ad about it. Because we care about you.
From Pete Evans to COVID-19.
From COVID-19 to 5G.
From 5G to a global pedo conspiracy involving Hollywood elites and a pizza restaurant for some reason.
Right now, let's cross over to India.
So,
huge stones thrown at one vehicle after another, smashing windscreens. Top leaders Kailash Vijayvargiya and Mukul Roy suffered injuries. The BJP leaders were heading to Diamond Harbour, 65 km south of Kolkata, when stones and lathis rained down. BJP workers on bikes in the convoy thrashed. Mr. Nadda said Jungle Raj.
मैं यहाँ पहुँचा हूँ तो माँ दुर्गा की कृपा से पहुँचा। मैं तो आज इसलिए सुरक्षित हूँ क्योंकि मेरे पास बुलेट प्रूफ गाड़ी, अन्यथा किसी कोई गाड़ी नहीं छूटी जिस पर अटैक नहीं हुआ है। ये गुंडा राज जो हमें देखने को मिला है, इसको नस्तो-नाबूद करना है।
The Home Minister has ordered a probe into the security labs. Mamata Banerjee said there will be a police probe, but wondered if there was provocation or even a conspiracy. She also said the BJP had not asked for security for Mr. Nadda from the state.
I challenge this. তোমরা স্টেট গভর্নমেন্টকে জানাবার প্রয়োজন মনে করো না। প্রবলেম হলে তখন স্টেটকে গালাগালি দাও। কে কাকে থ্রো করেছে না প্ল্যানিং করে করেছো? যেমন ঈশ্বরচন্দ্র বিদ্যাসাগর একটা প্ল্যানিং করে করেছিলেন। আমি পুলিশকে বলেছি টোটাল এনকোয়ারি করতে, এনকোয়ারি করে দেখতে। তার কারণ সব মিথ্যে সহ্য করব না।
Diamond Harbour, where the attack took place, is the constituency of Trinamool MP Abhishek Banerjee. He told a rally at Hooghly, what can we do if people don't like the BJP?
এই কালচার বাংলার মানুষ মেনে নেবে না। কথায় কথায় আবার বলছে আমরা নাকি গুন্ডামি করছি।
আজকে বিজেপি জেপি নাড্ডা এসে ডায়মন্ড হারবারে গিয়ে গাড্ডায় পড়েছে। তা আমি কি করতে পারি? সাধারণ মানুষের ক্ষোভের বহিঃপ্রকাশের দায়িত্ব তো আমার নয়।
The attack comes a day after state BJP chief Dilip Ghosh wrote to the Home Minister raising concerns about Mr. Nadda's security after he was shown black flags in Kolkata yesterday. Mr. Ghosh has been at the receiving end of such attacks, most recently at Alipurdwar and Murshidabad. But when Z+ security is breached, it can no longer be dismissed as political skirmishing. With GD Shankar, Monideepa Banerjee, NDTV.
So that news coverage there, live coverage there from NDTV. Well, of course, we know that the situation there is still not resolved and still not very good. So we will keep you updated. As we know, there's so much commentary going on Facebook as well, and of course people have different kinds of views, and that is quite okay because everyone's entitled to their own views. But dragging other people unnecessarily into your conversation is just not on. But people do that sometimes. They try to drag other people into the conversation and naming people and all those kinds of things. Well, of course, everyone's got a right to express their own opinion, and so it should be. And as the situation unfolds, we will keep you updated on what's happening, and we'll try and get some key community leaders or key spokesperson from our community who have been keeping touch with the situation and look at the situation in great detail, because on social media there's so much fake news coming out there as well, and so much that's being said. And of course, some of the language that is used in describing the situation, I'm not going to say, this side or that side, or anyone or any situation, but the language that's used by some people is just degrading. It just shows, the type of people they are and what they have been brought up as. So, those kind of things keep happening. As we know, the protest is into its 15th day now, and the whole world is keeping a lookout and a tab on the things, and everyone's looking at it. But all of a sudden, everyone on Facebook has become an expert, and they want to put in their views on all the things. And many times we need to fact check, we need to check. Of course, we know that it is not a good situation, and it's a situation that probably should have been handled much better and been resolved up till now, because it is not a good look, but it is happening. And all I'm saying is that everyone's entitled to their views, and that is quite fine. But of course, when you go on social media, be careful of what you're saying. Of course, you say what you want to, but be mindful of your language as well. I've seen many posts where many people have put in, I'm not going to take names, but some people have put some posts, and then other people get into that conversation, which is fine. Everyone's supposed to, everyone's got a right to say what they want to say, but don't unnecessarily, drag other people into the conversation if that's unwarranted, and don't jump to conclusion that this is what he or she is thinking or supporting, and that is not on. And of course, the language that's been used sometimes as well is very derogatory. You don't go down to that level. So that's all I'm saying. Well, ladies and gentlemen, it's been wonderful having your company once again. Today is always good to see you, and don't forget that tomorrow we'll bring an update with Gora Travels, and right now is goodbye from me until tomorrow. Make sure you enjoy the rest of the day that's out there, but most importantly, do stay safe. As we know, restrictions are easing, people are getting out and about a little bit more, but of course, exercise care wherever and possible. Please do take care. Don't just go out and think, as nothing's happened, let's just keep going. So with that, it's goodbye from me. We'll see you tomorrow.